Mediratta, welcome to the store. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Nupur. It's my pleasure.
All right, let's begin with the SSIPL story. So you are an integrated manufacturing retail distribution company with retail presence in 80 plus cities with about 3 lakh square feet of total retail space. You also have 4 manufacturing units, manufacturing production facilities for brands and with 4.89 million pairs of footwear. Can you take us to the current brand portfolio and retail bandwidth at
Sure.
SSIPL?
So SSIPL Group has been in business of retail and manufacturing almost 30 years now. The company started back in 1994 with the manufacturing for Nike. While today they already manufacture for several international and domestic brands, but as for retail portfolio, which I take care of in the company, is concerned, is basically divided into 4 verticals. One is Nike. We run their EBOs. Levi's. We have been a long-standing partner with them as well. Then we have 2 brands within our portfolio, which is Sports Station, which is a multi-brand concept for sportswear and athleisure brands, and Lotto, which is an exclusive licensee brand from Italy. So these are 4 verticals spread over 270 stores, 3 lakhs square feet of retail presence across 80 cities.
Right. So as you already pointed out, it's a long history for SSIPL. You became the first authorized manufacturer for Nike in India in 1996.
Yes.
And opened the first Nike store in India in 98. So, and it's been about 23 years since then. How would you sum up? Of course, India, the consumer space here has gone through tremendous changes since then, both in consumer behavior and also the retail environments.
So if I start with the retail environment specifically, I think we are fortunate as a generation to experience the entire change over the last 30 years. I remember as a kid when I used to go with my mom for retail shopping or whatever, I still remember they were all mom and pop stores across the street, right? There was no typical brand store. Only when I went to college, you started getting into the brands like Flying Machines and Peter England popping up in your neighborhood. Till then, it was only experience of a particular MBO, a local MBO, and that's it. So a lot of times people say that customer buy what they want to buy. Actually, if you go back 30 years, we were forced to buy what was offered to us, right? So from mom and pop stores to shopping malls, big box, opening of Pantaloons. I joined Pantaloons back in 2001, opening of Big Bazaar stores, and then eventually the e-commerce play, which has been there for 10 years. So I think what we have experienced in the last 30 odd years is something a Western country or a developed nation would have seen in 100 years plus, right? So I think we have been fortunate to experience that piece, and the way the whole retail landscape has completely changed, it completely baffles me. But at the same time, I think there's a huge opportunity which is created of late for all the brands which are digitally connected, people who want to directly connect with their brands, talk to them through different experiential centers they're creating, and specifically the new generation D2C brands which have started popping up right now. So I think the whole landscape has changed completely, but the customer is more discerning, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities. People say it's tier 1, but actually we have a lot of presence in tier 2, tier 3 cities. And the customer is equally or maybe more discerning because they are so hooked to their smartphones. They know much more than what a tier 1 city also would be aware of because they have more time at their hand, right? So customer has changed. The retail landscape has changed, but one thing has not changed. What I experienced 30 years back as a kid, accompanying my mom, and what is today, is when my mom used to enter a store, the first question she used to ask is, what is new and how much discount I'm going to get, right? So these are the 2 things, naya kya hai or discount kitna milega. But if you look at the campaigns recently by Amazon a couple of years back on Diwali, they used to talk about aur dikhao, right? And Big Bazaar campaign talking about isse sasta aur acha kahin nahi. It's more of resounding what exactly 30 years. The customer psyche is the same. They need value. They need newness. And at the same time, the convenience has to be a big play for them. And it's just the channel, the formats which are changing. The customer psyche remains the same.
So what you're saying is the Indian consumer is inherently value for money conscious, and that has not gone away.
That's not gone away. And barring luxury brands consumption, if you look at, I think this psyche plays in mass market to premium brands across. So they need some extra buck for their money.
Right. Okay, so over this crisis of the last year, and in fact running into 2021, I think sportswear or sportswear-led retailers have fared slightly better than other apparel and footwear categories, provided they were digitally enabled, right? So could you tell us a little bit about how SportStation kind of navigated the situation?
I think this category was far more resilient than any other category in apparel industry. And as far as sportswear business is concerned, I think it was already for us as one of the priorities we had for last couple of years was go digital. And the way we looked at this particular disruption was a downtime was used by my team to put a task force in place so that we can immediately look at relaunch of our own website, list our merchandise on different marketplaces, and at the same time prepare my team members for the front end SOPs. And so I think it played pretty well for us, and we used this downtime to have that disruption outplayed as soon as we have the lockdown section going.
Right. So coming
But
from
I'll be honest, Nupur, when the lockdown hit us, we were obviously caught unaware, and that 2 months, 3 months were quite tough. But I think, and we had zero sales, right? Because we had essentially that time at retail. But the way the whole thing prevailed for us today, as we talk, 10% of my business is coming from e-commerce and digital.
Sure. Yes, of course, I can understand that. So coming from that, actually, you refer to the marketplaces. So I just wanted to understand, of course, the marketplaces give you the immense reach that you perhaps on your own cannot, right? The immense volume of reach and
Yes.
potentially sales. But I just want to understand from you, from the customer's point of view, from the brand's point of view, the brand experience that a retailer would get in its own omni-channel format would be far higher, right, than retailing on marketplaces. So it's a balance between trade-off between the sales numbers versus the full 360-degree experience that your own omni-channel model could give, perhaps. What do you feel?
So for me, marketplace is one of the channels, but we are anyways investing heavily in our own e-commerce website for Sportstation and Lotto both. So that remains a priority, and the idea is to connect all my stores through directly to the website and completely give a more seamless experience as far as S2C sales are concerned. So we stay invested there. Marketplace is just one of the channels.
So yeah, which brings me actually to my next thought, which is that the silver lining, or maybe the major lesson in this entire crisis, has been what technology can deliver for you.
Yes.
Markets and reach that you perhaps would never have thought of.
Yeah.
So it's actually helped retail, in my view, to get to places, get to consumers they never would have, perhaps they never would have considered otherwise.
So I agree with that statement, but if I go to tier two, tier three, tier one still experiencing a lot of elevated retail space now. You have a lot of brands coming with bigger and better stores. Yesterday, I was at CP for the launch of a beacon store of Adidas. They opened a 6,000 square feet store. So they've been doing that. Nike has been doing that in the past as well. Puma has opened a big store in another Bangalore. So those stores have been. But when you go to tier two, tier three, and especially since we have a lot of play there through Sportstation and Lotto, even if you open a good experience store with deep assortment of the category, they want to connect. They want to come to the store. It's not that they are the ones who are completely hooked to the phone and only shop online. So idea is that can we have a more of a seamless experience where the brand is getting a big connect from these customers at a retail flow, and at the same time when they go back and get your sales coming in your phone, they can be basically they buy online, and if they have to exchange offline, if they buy offline, they can do an online transaction with you. That's the seamless experience they're expecting. And it's again, I'm saying it's not tier one, but tier two, tier three as well.
No, in fact, that is what you're saying about tier two, three, and four markets also is actually pretty much because what I've heard from many other brands. And,
Yes. I'll
what,
give you an example. We opened a store in Itanagar. Not many stores, many brands have ventured there. We opened a store in Imphal. It's a very unpenetrated territory for most of the brands. And we were baffled by the numbers. We got amazing success in these two regions. So it is very clear that despite the fact that we have so much of internet penetration and smartphone usage, these territories are still unserved, right? There's a huge and even the single brands are not available at those places. So if we can create a great environment, offer 7, 8 top international brands under one roof, give them more trendy athleisure and sports merchandise, give them a little more deep assortment, obviously throw a little bit of offers and promotions around a particular store, I think it's a huge potential out there.
what do you think is the biggest misconception many brands or retailers companies have about the opportunity in the smaller markets, 3, 4?
I think the biggest misconception they have is about rate of sale. That rate of sale is quite low in these two cities I mentioned, or for that matter, if you go to Jalandhar of the world. I can't name the brand, but recently one brand numbers I got from Punjab city. Again, that pushed me to think about getting my brand there. So those numbers are really real numbers, and tier one, as I said, they're saturated markets. There's so many brands, so many options, e-commerce invasion, everything is there. But tier two, three, they have more time. For them, getting into a retail store is an experience. It's an outing. It's a mini vacation. It's more of a retail therapy they have to experience, and they love doing that. They have a lot of time at hand, and they love doing shopping offline.
Okay, let's talk
And
about.
they are very demanding. They want Jordans of the world in those cities. They want the Adidas originals, despite the fact that particular territory doesn't demand that type of merchandise, but there are people who ask for those product categories.
So that could be also because the information is now democratic. It is everywhere. The same kind of information is reaching all markets, all consumers at the same time. So I think one of the changes in the market in India over the last 30 years is also the aspiration gap has narrowed. So
Absolutely. And this is purely because of smartphones. As I said, they have all the information, all the trends on Insta given every day to them.
how are you making the most of this surge in sportswear? It's a phenomenon now.
Yes.
It's not just in clothing or footwear, it's also in food choices, lifestyle choices. How are you making the most of this popularity surge?
For me, I think the biggest priority is, can I give deeper assortment and have more bigger stores as far as Sports Station is concerned. I'll give you a brief journey of Sports Station. We started back in 2015. Okay, it's been 5 years journey, and it's evolved tremendously. We initially were more of a sportswear, footwear door for men's custom, essentially. I would say we had women's, we had apparel, but they were not really represented well. And there was 1,000 odd square feet. And there were 5 brands fighting for that space within that 1,000 square feet. Today, single brand stores are opening, which you see in the cities, specifically in Delhi, Bangalore, Bombay, are 3,000 square feet plus. And the customer has graduated. He is asking for better options. He's asking for more options. He's more discerning. So can Sports Station open bigger and better doors of next couple of years and give deeper assortment, bigger category play, more brands at the same time across price points? And out of 70 stores we have currently in the system, 10 stores in the last 1.5 years, we opened up 1,500 and 2,000 square feet plus. I think the output there, the PSPD in terms of sales per square feet, the productivity is far better than the smaller stores we had 4 years prior to that. So that is already in play. In fact, we are talking about, we opened a flagship store in Mall of Amritsar. We opened in Itanagar. We have a big store in Connaught Place. So while we keep on expanding in tier 1/tier 2, I think very excited about playing in tier 3.
Right. And which gets me to the physical store question. So, of course, with the rise of e-commerce, and actually not just the rise, it's an explosion of e-commerce in India. So, physical retailers now will need to elevate the experience, offer the convenience, all the features that make a physical store attractive.
Yes.
I think there's much more hard work that physical retailers will have to do in order to get customers to not just come to the store, to also transact itself at the store, right? So, what do you think
I think
physical?
look, it's already started. If you see, I think 2 years back, 3 years back, we opened a flagship door of Nike on the Linking Road. A few years back, we had a Delhi big door coming in as well. So that elevated retail experience already started. It's just gonna get more and more, more and more brands will start adopting it. And this is something which is gonna continue. And a customer coming to your store is not looking at just a brand assortment. They're looking at the entire experience, the service, the staff on the floor. For example, the staff on the floor, if in case he's selling basketball, if he's a basketball player, an athlete, it serves the purpose. A lot of people in my Nike stores, or for them at a sports station, are themselves athletes. They are better at selling those product categories. So that added experience, elevated retail space, deeper assortment of the product is going to really, really add that value as far as customers are concerned.
What would you advise going forward? The top 2, 3, 4 advice notes for retailers in sportswear to how to enhance the brick and mortar experience going forward.
as I just explained right now, I think it has to be a curated, deeper assortment of the merchandise. The customer coming out there to a multi-brand outlet like ours is definitely not a brand fanatic. He's brand agnostic, to be honest. He's looking for a varied range and what best you can offer from each brand, and then he want to pick up one or two particular products from that. So can we be the jury for him to really basis the voice of the customer, the data scientists we have in our systems, the data they keep on throwing what customer is talking about, telling about the product sales. Can we give that experience in terms of the curated merchandise we have to offer to them? And just throw a lot of nice goods customer service and add seamless customer experience as far as omnichannel sales. These are three things: elevated retail experience through these three particular factors.
Okay, and let's talk about store size also. You did refer to it earlier. So for an MBO such as Sports Station, what do you think is an intelligent space? What is the optimal store size to offer this?
We are looking at 2,500 to 3,000 square feet, and that's a good space to represent my top 5 marquee brands in a good way.
Okay, okay. Can you share some numbers on what you're looking at in terms of per square foot sales? What would be a good number?
Depending on the city, we are looking at 40 to 45 rupees per at an average. But in a city which is like Delhi, it would be around 60, 65 rupees plus, even 100 if in case you go to CP, and 35 to 40 rupees when you go to tier 2 and tier 3. At average, 40, 45 rupees of sales per square feet. And that works fine for us because that's an average across the country.
So do you have a best performing Sports Station outlet?
We have a Connaught Place, we have Itanagar, we have Imphal, we have Mall of Amritsar. These are again, as I said, anywhere between 1,500 to 3,500 square feet.
All right. Okay. What do you think for Connaught Place? I'm assuming location is a very big factor in the store.
Itanagar is not, and as I said, is one of my top performers. Jasola is not, Panipat is not.
But what do you think? You've obviously done some analysis on what specific factors are driving the success.
Every location, they're very, very different. For Panipat, I think the offers and the promotions work pretty well. Connaught Place is more of a discerning customer who's looking for that $100 plus shoe. But if you go to the tier 2, tier 3, they're looking at $100 and less. So the assortment changes, yes. The offering changes, the brand mix changes, the category mix changes. For example, in some places, apparel is a far stronger category than even footwear for that matter. We put obviously a lot of more apparel category as such, but somewhere there's footwear which is far bigger than apparel. So depending on, we have ABC modeling for each and every territory. We obviously keep on evolving that particular concept, but we have a better A, better B, better C concept.
On an average, how much does apparel contribute to the overall sales figures?
We started 2015, it was less than 20%, today is almost 40%, 37% category we want to bank upon. I think with athleisure being one of the integral parts of sportswear going forward, as I said, most of these sportswear brands are adding a lot of fashion in their categories. It's pre and post workout, pre and post running, that have merchandise, hoodies and airport looks, whatever you see today is all athleisure, right? The world has changed. People are wearing that to offices. Right. So that is something which we want to add and go double down as far as apparel is concerned. Footwear, anyways, we have a strong presence.
Can you share some details on your marketing strategy? How are you going about approaching?
Right now is far more than localized. We are not getting into any national level advertising and marketing as of now, but maybe if need is there, we look at that. But as of now, each and every store, each and every city is a territory for me. So if I go there, obviously we do whatever we need to in terms of launch, in terms of marketing at a local level, tie-ups with the local gymnasiums, schools, all that we obviously want to be.
Social media activations, are you very active there? Or do you
we are just getting started, to be honest. We have already have a string of influencers coming in with a lot of engagement programs, connect programs on the Instas and other social media channels as well. We launched CRM program recently. Again, thanks to COVID, we had a lot of downtime getting used in terms of CRM. We launched that particular piece. So that particular piece will also start throwing a lot of data, how to connect those customers in terms of online and offline.
Okay. In terms of consumer behavior, how do you see the future of sportswear retail panning out? What would you, purely from the consumer's perspective, what do you think are going to be the defining behaviors that will influence retail?
I think as far as customer is concerned, he or she is very, very clear that they want that particular product which they've already seen in the phone, or for that matter have seen in a particular ad right now. You serve them through offline store or through your online store, is up to you. But they are looking for a seamless experience, number one. Number two, they're looking for a bigger and better emotional connect. They're not gonna buy any particular brand or from any particular store till the time they have an emotional connect. You stand for a cause, you stand for a local talent, you stand for promoting local talent through your brands. So these type of engagements are needed to tell the customer that we stand for a cause rather than just selling a commodity product to you. So these are the 2 or 3 aspects which I think customers are looking at. Barring that, as I said, they're looking for deeper assortments, curated merchandise, and getting the best of these brands which they love to wear and flash.
Right. And how much do you expect your e-commerce transition or your digital acceleration to
I think
boost?
we're internally targeting 20 odd percent to be coming from there. In Lotto, we already have achieved that number. And in Sports Station, as I said, own e-commerce, already giving approximately 10 odd percent, and that number has to double up as well.
What is the next 5-year plan look like for you? What
I
will
think
be?
we already have 70 stores with another in 50 odd cities, and we have 30 cities already identified. I can't name those cities, but yeah, it's a long list. Those 30 cities have been identified. So the idea is, first of all, take a cautious, optimistically cautious approach for next 1.5 years. Double down in number of stores in terms, if not stores, actually the square footage. So if you are 90 odd thousand, 95,000 square footage, can we take to a 200,000 square foot by the end of next 12 to 18 months? This is my first approach, and later on keep doubling down on those particular numbers.
So will these new locations be on high streets or shopping centers or a mix of?
Now that's an interesting question. We initially thought this type of customer is essentially in malls, but today, specifically for Sports Station, 2/3 of the business is coming from high street and 1/3 is coming from the malls.
So is it fair to say most of these locations will be in the local high streets?
Because we are very gung-ho about going to tier 2, yes, it will be more high street. If in case we have a quality retail space in malls, we look at that also. But essentially, it will be high street. Majority of it will be high street.
Right. And in terms of digital transformation, what will be your focus areas?
I think we already implement CRM. The idea is that we can get a lot of data collection in terms of voice of the customer, the engagement we want to plan around it, automatically managed system as far as supply. We never had a warehouse for Sports Station as such till now. All the brands were dropping the merchandise directly to the stores. So we want to invest into the back end in terms of warehousing, put the automatic replenishment system out there, and several other initiatives as far as the enterprise shifting to cloud. A lot of workflow management internally implemented, merchandising and analytical tools getting implemented. So there's a lot of digital initiatives in action right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aasheesh Mediratta, for being on the store and for sharing those insights.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.